Hello Looney listeners, this is Ray here. Just wanting to say, look, if you like Moon Knight, I urge you to give the Fringe Knight a go. This is a self-published indie release by creator and writer Daniel Doing, and it's a ripper of a read. The Fringe Knight is an adventure comic series set in Erie, Pennsylvania, and the series stars the title character who protects his city from every threat imaginable, from radioactive wolfmen to mad scientists putting poodles in giant robots. The Fringe Knight is there to protect. Definitely worth checking out. I highly recommend it. Available, just check out the show notes in this episode, but Fringe Knight has a Facebook page as well as a Patreon page, and you can also find all the comics on indieplanet.com. So check out Fringe Knight by Daniel Doing. Alright, let's get on to the show. Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You're listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. You're with one of your high priests of KHONSHU this episode, Ray. Hello, everybody. And we have a very special episode here. Thought we'd be able to, highlight one of our beloved Patroony's works, and just things that are happening coming up in 2024. So we have special guest Daniel Doing. Daniel, how you going?
Greetings and salutations to you, High Priest Ray, on this most auspicious of nights of KHONSHU.
Yes.
How you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm excited to chat with you about, we are talking about Fringe Knight. For those that don't know, so this is a special bonus episode released for everybody. And I've titled it Daniel Fringe Knight Remastered because you've been working so hard with your content creation of Fringe Knight, both ranging in the comics, also in wearables, in cosplay as well. Would you like to tell the listeners before I start with that, for anyone that has been living under a rock and doesn't know about Fringe Knight, who is Fringe Knight? And yeah, how did he come about?
Oh man, that is the question, isn't it? So the Fringe Knight is pretty much my love letter to all the deep, complex characters that I grew up reading, like Moon Knight, the Shadow, the Phantom, the good, because to me, Moon Knight always seemed more like a pulp hero. He kind of he lives in his own world, even though he's in the Marvel universe. He really does kind of just live in his own universe, in a certain way. It's Moon Knight's world. We're just living in it. So I wanted to tell a good sort of scary noir story, and I spent a long time developing it, and we just released our 7th issue of The Fringe Knight. A sort of supernatural crime mystery thriller that's set in Erie, Pennsylvania, which I live about 40 minutes from there.
Oh, okay. I thought actually you lived in Erie, Pennsylvania. Okay.
I'm close enough. I mean, it's out in Pennsylvania. If you're 40 minutes away from something, you're close. Okay.
Right, and you mentioned as well. So you're 7 issues strong, which is great. It's still going. When did you first conceive of when it was Fringe Knight first published?
About 7 years ago.
Okay. Oh, consistently.
Back in 2017.
Okay. So so you've had Fringe Knight going strong for 7 years as well, and you felt, I guess it's time for a bit of a polish up. Is that right? Like looking back at some of the past issues?
Yep. So when I did issue 1, I had no clue what I was doing. it was essentially like, long time comic reader, first time comic writer kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to forego a lot of stuff due to budget constraints to do a story, but not the full story that I wanted to do. So I've been going back with my current artist, Javier Lugo, who is an outstanding artist, and if you need anything done,
Fantastic art.
he is your guy.
Yep.
And we have completely remastered issue 1 from the ground up. We've taken the script and expanded it to a almost 35-page or 36-page mega issue almost.
Mm-hmm.
To include a lot of details that we couldn't in that first issue to really flesh out the story and really take a deep look into who is the Fringe Knight and how did he get to this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like a real labor of love, isn't it? It's similar to, like, I liken it to, say, podcasting. After so many years and all the experience that you gain, you're looking back at your first issue or your first episode, and you go, "Oh, I wish I could have done that differently."
What the hell was I thinking?
So it's a great opportunity, but it's also, I think, a great stepping stone to introduce the character again to a new, wider fan base. So, and also, I mean, taking nothing away from issue 1, of course, but you get to present it in a bigger, better format. You get to, maybe fix up the errors or whatever, or things that you missed out on. So you get to present a
things that I didn't know about back then that I know now.
Yeah, and then so you get to present a better version of your character. For those that may want to pick it up as well. I forgot to mention as well that you also not only cosplay and comics, but you do consistently do some writing. Like you do Fringe Night prose, right? Like short stories. Yeah.
Oh yes, I have recently, and that's another big thing that we are going to be doing this year is a lot more actual pulp stories.
Cool.
Because like back in the day, before we had comic books, which are wonderful, you used to have pulp magazines, which were pretty much the same format. And everybody's read a pulp, whether they know it or not. If you ever gotten like a Goosebumps book or Magic Treehouse book, that's essentially a pulp. It's a short story with a few illustrations to it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to sort of build up a lot more of like the Fringe Knight universe with stories that I couldn't quite find a way to tell in the main book. So I've decided to tell them as sort of like, in between, issue 4 and 5, there's this story happening.
Yeah.
Or between issue 6 and 7. So these pulps are going to be done. I'm hoping to do them at least monthly or bi-monthly. And they're going to be exclusive on our Patreon page.
Awesome. And also as well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I guess the process of making a comic book is probably a bit slower, and if you have these endless ideas, it's quicker to kind of like fill in those gaps. Would that be fair to say, by writing this prose, that you can expand the universe without having to go through the months needed to pull in the artists?
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair way of putting it. Just again, I've got so much going on up here.
Yeah, it's really good.
I have to get my poor artist a break because I'm messaging him like, what if we did this? He's like, dude, I'm sleeping.
It is really, it astounds me. It's amazing how the wealth of creativity that you are outputting, so it's amazing. It's really good. I'm so glad that Fringe Knight is still going strong. I would be remiss if I did not mention as well, Daniel, one of your crowning achievements as well, listeners, Fringe Knight comics, books, cosplay, but also action figures. This was what I thought was amazing. This was towards the end of last year, right? You kind of got this together.
Yep.
You've got the package, like you've got the full on. It's similar to like Marvel Legends, and the figure looks awesome, doesn't it? Yes, There it is. So how did you find that process? I mean, because that would have been your first time, right, as a figure making thing.
So I had spoken to some other independent comic book publishers who had sort of gone the same route of because the thing that I feel sort of is like it's sort of the standard now is everybody does like a Kickstarter for like everything they do. And I'm just like, well, why don't I just cut out the middleman and learn to do this myself? Because I see like independent books and movies and stuff who like they'll do like limited edition action figures and stuff. And me, I loves me my action figures. I don't know about
I
you,
know.
but I have me a very extensive Marvel Legends collection going back a long time. And with the resurgence of McFarlane doing the DC figures and actually scaling the figures up to 7 inches, like it was sort of like this, revelation. Me like, oh my god, like you can actually do figures in different sizes.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I had found a very talented 3D modeler who I held up one of my crazy scribblings like, make this 3D. Me what make this. And he very calmly said, and I was like, okay, how many points of articulation do you want? And I'm basically like just a caveman going, me, you man.
It's got there's a little bit more to it than just So yeah.
And I learned quite a bit from that experience because I essentially I like to boil it down to I liked the size scale of the McFarlane figures, which is about 7 inches.
Yep.
And I did about as many points of articulation as a Marvel Legends figure.
So was that like 32 or something? Or
about 34, I believe.
34. Okay. Well, yeah, they are highly articulate, the Marvel Legends figures. So you get that in the Fringe Knight figure itself. Where to then from this with figure making? Are you looking at other characters within the Fringe Knight universe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've just gotten Fringe Knight done. And a little side note, because I make all the figures myself, I paint them all myself. I even make fabric coats for them.
That is amazing. Well, you are a very, very good cosplayer. I mean, I have seen I'm, albeit a smaller version, I'm sure making wearables for figures would be not too hard for you as well. So that's great. Wow.
Crazy fact, the coat for my figure is literally just the pattern of my actual Fringe Knight coat, and I had a friend of mine scan in the pattern and just Xerox, and I literally cut out the exact pattern for the big coat, but in tiny form.
Wow, amazing!
So all the figures have fabric coats. It's not just one big hunk of flexible plastic on them or anything. Because that was always something that bugged me, especially growing up, is like you get this awesome Batman figure, but he's got just this big plastic cape on him that doesn't move. You're like trying to like make it move or make him do cool poses and can't.
Yeah, I've seen more and more these days, a lot with the Mezco figures and Hot Toys, you get more of the fabric capes, which lends itself to more display, flexibility in display, whether you want them flapping away or you're right. Because sorry, that's where I'm getting towards. Yeah, the posability, because with the plastic ones, although they look cool and you can always guarantee that they will look, they'd be perfectly wrinkled and crumpled the way they're meant to be. If you want, say, like Moon Knight jumping off a rooftop, he's still going to have like a cape that like folds down. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really go with what you want to do. So yeah, absolutely. With all this as well, again, listeners, all of this will be in the show notes. So all these items are available online, right, as well. But you do
FringeKnight.com.
FringeKnight.com. We'll get that in the show notes. Listeners, check it out if you can. All comics are digital as well as hard copies. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. We are currently working on getting 7 turned into a PDF, but it'll also be available.
Okay. Fantastic as well. But with the likes of the figures and the comics and stuff, you do travel. Like, I have seen you go to various cons and set up stalls there. You even had I'm assuming that you employed her to play one of your characters. I can't remember. She was the digital. Who was she again?
Oh yes, Dominatrix. Yes,
Dominatrix. Yeah. She was an actor, right?
Very good friend of very good friend of mine and a fellow cosplayer, Scarlet Traces.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, check her out on Instagram. Give her a follow. She is super awesome, and she listens to all my insane ramblings and puts a smile on her face.
But yeah, I mean, you travel around and you set up stalls with Fringe Night. So tell us about about the experience of being on the other side. You know, as opposed to attending a con. How is it being part of the con?
It's a trip. It really does feel like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory at some point. Because especially the big one that I do is Erie Comic Con. We're
Mhm.
don't forget to check out Erie Comic Con 2024 this year, guys. And you have to get there early. You have to make sure everything's set up. It very much feels like when you go to, like, if you're like watching some movie about medieval times and you see like the dude at the market like, oh, fresh pears. That's pretty much what I feel like. Oh, fresh comics, come and buy my comics.
Is it? Oh, I can't imagine it's cutthroat or anything like that. I can only imagine that your peers, your fellow stall, you know, retailers, you all kind of get together. Do you mix and mingle, or
We,
do you check
we
each other
do.
out? Yeah.
Oh, we do. We'll sit there and talk with one another because we'll see some people with some very outrageous cosplays, and we'll just like look at each other like woof. But it's very nice though. There is a lot of camaraderie amongst the vendors and everything. There's not really this like, oh, it's gonna be my money. Oh, screw
Mm,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because everybody does something different. Like, yes, there are a few others like me who have independent books, but we all know not everybody's gonna get Fringe Night. Not everybody's going to get this book or that book. It's going to be whatever particular taste the reader wants, they'll get that book. And all we can do as creators is show our idea to the world, see who likes it, and see if they'll read it.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a I don't know what sort of question it is, but you don't have to answer it. Okay. It just got me thinking as well. So, being a content creator and having this such a strong idea and plans for Fringe Night, have you ever considered approaching other companies, like Image, where you're able to maybe get your character and your book out to a greater audience, with the help of them. And I mentioned Image because it sounds like they're very supportive of content creators, of like independent creators. What are your thoughts on that? Dynamite or Action Lab Comics, yeah.
They can be, but just unless you have something that's already firmly established, you have like a legal team to look over all the paperwork. If you're like me, just some schmo off the street who's writing a funny book because you love writing funny books, it's going to be very daunting and it's going to be a little off-putting because
Oh,
they're going to throw all these like, oh, you got to make this many sales figures, you got to show us you've got this much growth in mind, you've got to be able to pay your own artist for like a year or so.
okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's different with every company.
Yeah.
And really, it's kind of like that lightning in a bottle moment. Like, if you have something that they want, they will approach you. If not,
Mm.
it's you having to show that you have the prettiest horse at the show
Yeah. Yeah.
if you want to pursue that route.
Yeah.
And just frankly, I kind of floated the idea a little bit, but at the end of the day, I was like, this is my creation.
Mhm.
This is my story I want to tell. I
Yeah.
want to be able to tell it on my terms.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, that's fair, and that's a kind of the one of the main things, I guess, for content creators, and for eventually working at, say, the big two, where you do lose a lot of those rights as a creator. So, also as well, then if not going down that route, I'm just spitballing here, Daniel. If not going down this route as well, and already having done the comic cons that you've done, getting Fringe Night on the comic book shelves or maybe the figures within comic book stores, is that something that might be worth investigating, or had you
Oh
read?
yes,
Yeah.
I've been talking with a lot of the local shops and building up a network, and thankfully my artist has a lot of very good friendships with other comic shops because they also like to like you'll really find nowadays, like comic shops, they really want to support the
Oh, that's
independent
fantastic.
artists.
Oh, that's great.
They don't want to be mucking about with like Diamond and like
Yeah.
whatever DC's using for their distribution, because they had to be big shots and pull out a Diamond. But just like they don't want to deal with a middleman.
Yeah.
They want to help the independent artist, the person who, if they call or email, they will hear from that person. They won't hear from an
Yeah.
assistant or an executive assistant. None of that malarkey.
Oh, that's really good, actually. That sound, and that's very encouraging, because I know definitely my LCS Kings, I have seen them support Australian, like, local talent, and they have displayed Australian comics. You know that you would never see over. I hate to say it, I mean, but you'd probably never see over there, Daniel. You know, they're very much local. But it is good. I'm sure there are a lot of prerequisites that go with it as well, similar to what you're saying about approaching companies to take on your character. I'm sure with comic book stores, they'd want to know something as well. I mean, uh, call me cynical, but I don't see any business being totally philanthropic, without there being some
Yeah,
motive for themselves.
yeah.
But
What's the point? Yeah.
yeah, but that's really cool. So I mean, I'd love to see Fringe Night in more comics. It would be a dream, Daniel, if there were Fringe Nights at my local comic book store.
Well,
um,
send them my way. I'll
yeah,
definitely I'll supply them with the books.
yeah. Well, I can definitely send you their details and just see. I mean, like, again, you don't know until you give it a go, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it's funny because I find more and more, especially with getting the website up and running, the biggest thing that deters people is that international shipping, because our
yes,
postal service is so goofy right now.
mm,
Trying to get anything shipped international, it's like, and I'm sure and it's interesting, I'd love to get your opinion on this, because like in America, when you have like the big anime fans and everything, and they're
yep,
ordering in all of this stuff from directly from like Tokyo, like the
hmm,
Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z
yep,
plushie pillow, whatever thing.
yep,
The item itself is like maybe $20,
yep,
but the shipping, it could be like $80 for
yep,
them to ship a pillow.
yep. That's
So
exactly how it's like here, which is a massive deterrent for where I'm from, Australians to try and buy overseas. I mean, there's the amount of times, Daniel, where I looked at I can't remember the name of the website. It's an American one. It's like cheap graphic novels, or there's a direct graphic sales. There's a website on the US, and the cost for omnibuses and trades are crazy cheap. And
nuts,
I would
nuts on the
love
shipping.
I would love to get that, but as you say, the shipping costs more than half, or more than the cost of the actual item itself. So it's a massive deterrent, unfortunately. And yeah, it sounds like it works both ways. Like when you are trying to order from the Pacific, from Japan, it's just going to cost. So yeah, I don't know how we kind of make that. I've looked at. There are things on websites here, Daniel, where I can from the US. There's a nominated shipping address, and for a small fee, I can basically lock that in, and then I do an order, and I have it shipped over to that address in the US. But it only really works if I bulk buy, because then again, there's an inherent shipping cost. It comes out
Yep.
slightly cheaper than if I do buy. But I
But
can
then it's
actually,
that risk versus reward thing.
yeah, and well, the flexibility with that is that I can buy from multiple stores and still just incur the one heavy shipping cost. Whereas if I buy one omnibus from here, or like a Fringe Night figure from there, it's going to be like that. The shipping costs are going to add up. So so yeah, it's
Buy
eh,
Fringe Night, buy now.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it sounds great. Like, things are happening with Fringe Night, 2024. Like, before we kind
Gonna
of
be a big year.
yeah,
Gonna be a
before
big year.
we
Because
wrap.
on top of all that, we're gonna
Yep,
have issue 8 coming out
yep.
by at least by summertime.
Okay.
We're actually gonna launch an Indiegogo for the remastered issue 1, because
Hmm.
we've got a whole slew of fun things that we want to throw in. I've been working on some fun stuff. We even have pledge levels. If you get if you pledge for the remastered issue 1, you could also get a Fringe Night action figure along with it.
Wow, cool. And what's the timing? What would the timing be for the remastered thing? So if you have this pledge going, when in 2024 can you expect the release of the remastered?
We are actually. It's funny you mention that. Gang, keep a lookout, because by the end of this month, we are going to be doing our first ever motion trailer for the remastered issue 1, which will have a link for the Indiegogo.
Yeah.
And then we'll be running the campaign for about a month, so beginning of February to end of February, which is going to be goofy because it's a leap year. And once that's done, we're going to get everything all set to go. And then by, I want to say, mid to late April, we will get everything shipped.
Okay.
So we'll have, books. We even have T-shirts and posters and hoodies, especially in this weather, because I don't know about down you, but it's like 0 degrees right here right now.
Oh, and it's quite warm and toasty here. Yeah.
Oh, just keep rubbing it in, Ray. Just because KHONSHU likes you more.
But geez, Daniel, sorry, go on.
But no, and then on top of that, we are also going to be working, and this is going to be exclusive on our Patreon. We are going to be doing a limited series Fringe Night radio drama.
Wow. Look, just before you go any further, I was about to say, Daniel, and you've proven me once again, it seems like there's no media uncovered for Fringe Night. He's talking about motion. There's a motion, what would you call it? Like a motion ad?
Like a short animated trailer.
So we're talking animation. We're talking clothes, wearables, apparel, and we're talking now a radio drama on top of everything. You've got everything covered. All we need now is a live action movie / TV series.
Pay attention to us, Netflix.
Now that's fantastic. So tell us more a bit about the radio drama in the works.
It's going to be about 20 to 30 minutes. Again, going in that same sort of like old-fashioned radio pulp drama like The Shadow.
Yeah, I like it.
But again, set in modern times. We're not going to be sitting there clanging pots and pans to do thunder. We have SoundCloud for that now. But again, it's going to be a limited series that's going to be set in between, sort of in the backdrop. It's going to be kind of like, like while this story's going on, this is going on in the background kind of thing.
Okay.
Again, not everything we see in the issues is the everyday life of Anthony, aka the Fringe Knight. So what's going on here not necessarily is being covered here. So this way you get to see everything he's up to. He has no moment peace.
That is awesome. It sounds like a huge year for Fringe Night 2024. Before we wrap up, Daniel, as well, anything else apart from look? Everything will be in the links in the show notes. So go check it out. I've got to urge you. Oh, your Patreon page. Tell us a little bit about that and the tiers. It's kind of the wet the whistle of some listeners.
Yep. So we will be working on a few restructuring things with the radio dramas and everything coming. So you can pledge anywhere from $1, and you get to see all of the amazing artwork, previews for upcoming issues, sketches for characters and things like that. To $5, which essentially means every time we come out with an issue, boom, you get a copy sent to you.
Fantastic.
And then you can even go as far as, I think I have it set at $40, where you could actually become a character in an issue of Fringe Night.
Oh, wow. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds pretty good.
In the background just going like, whoa!
That's awesome. So listeners, definitely check out the Patreon page. Check out fringenight.com. Is that all one word?
Yep, thefringenight.com.
thefringenight.com. Check it out for all Daniel's stuff. Daniel, it's been fantastic to be able to learn more and actually to get it out there. Hopefully there are a lot of loonies out there that are interested in Fringe Night. I urge you, it's fantastic. I've read, I haven't read the 7th issue. I think I've read issues 1 to 4 I think, or maybe if I'm a little
Oh,
bit behind.
you're in for a big surprise there, my friend.
But thank you so much, Daniel. Is there anywhere else that listeners may be able to contact you should they want to talk more about Fringe Night, or where to get?
Absolutely. We are on Twitter at, Fringe Night Official, underscores in between there. Same with we've got an Instagram page. We have our Facebook page. And then we also now have our YouTube page
Oh,
where we will be putting a series of our teaser videos available for everybody.
fantastic. We'll definitely go check it out. As I said, listeners, it's all there in the show notes. Just click on and see. Obviously, if you're Aussie and stuff, just beware of shipping as well. But don't let that deter you. It's really great stuff that Daniel is doing. No pun.
But
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
well, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a blast.
No worries. Listeners, as this is a bonus episode, you know the drill. But as always, may KHONSHU watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.